reaches of rural America, there exists a chilling legend whispered among locals, a tale of grotesque, humanoid creatures with swollen, bulbous heads that glisten like pale melons in the moonlight. Known as melon heads, these eerie beings are said to dwell in abandoned buildings, dense forests, and remote tunnels, lurking just beyond the reach of civilization. The origins of the melon heads vary depending on the region. In Ohio, they are believed to be the result of cruel medical experiments conducted on children in a remote asylum. These children, subjected to horrifying treatments, developed abnormally large skulls and misshapen bodies. When the asylum burned down, the survivors fled into the woods, where they lived in secrecy, their rage and deformities growing over time. In Connecticut, the legend speaks of a deranged family or clan, born from generations of inbreeding, hiding in the woods and preying on anyone who ventured too close. Michigan tells a similar story, where they haunt the eerie felt mansion, their glowing eyes peering out from the darkness. Encounters with the melonheads are rare, but terrifying. They are described as small humanoid figures, with wiry limbs and heads grotesquely oversized for their frail bodies. Their eyes are dark and empty, their faces twisted, with a mix of childlike innocence and feral aggression. Travellers who have stumbled into their territory often report being followed by strange rustling sounds, low growls, or glimpses of movement just beyond the tree line. Some claim the melonheads attack in groups, using crude weapons or their bare hands to ambush their victims, leaving only scraps of clothing and blood-streaked earth behind. To this day, the legend of the melonheads persists, their presence a warning to those who dare to wander too far from the safety of the main roads. Locals advise against travelling alone at night, especially near the abandoned structures or dense woods where these creatures are said to dwell. For if you hear the faint, childlike giggle in the darkness, or catch a glimpse of a bulbous head disappearing into the shadows, you may already be too late, because the melonheads are watching, waiting, and hungry. In the shadowy annals of New England's history, amidst tales of spectral figures and cursed lands, the story of Eunice Cole, or Goody Cole, stands out with a chilling resonance. In the small town of Brentwood, New Hampshire, her name became synonymous with witchcraft and woe, her life a testament to the dark superstitions that once gripped the heart of the 17th century. Goody Cole was an enigmatic figure, her life shrouded in misfortune and mystery. First accused of witchcraft in 1656, she became the scapegoat for every disaster that befell the town, from unexplained deaths to failing crops and dying livestock. Her neighbours' fear and suspicion branded her an outcast, a woman touched by the devil himself. The townsfolk whispered that she could be seen muttering to herself in the woods, concocting strange brews and communing with unseen forces. Children dared each other to peek through her dimly lit windows, only to flee in terror at the sight of her shadowy form bending over a flickering flame. It was said that she cast curses with a glance and summoned storms with a wave of her gnarled hands. Her repute as a witch grew so dire that in 1673 she was accused once more. This time, the evidence was more damning, the fear more palpable. They dragged her before the court, her eyes blazing with defiance as the charges were read. Found guilty, she was sentenced to imprisonment, her final years spent in the cold, dark confines of the cell, where she was left to languish, forgotten by all but those who feared her curse. But death did not bring Goody Cole peace. The town, eager to rid itself of her malignant influence once and for all, buried her in an unmarked grave at the edge of the cemetery. They drove a stake through the heart of her plot, a grim ritual to prevent her tormented spirit from rising and haunting them. Yet this act only solidified her legend, and it was said that her spirit lingered, malevolent and vengeful. To this day, eerie occurrences in Brentwood are often whispered to be the workings of Goody Cole's restless ghost. On stormy nights, some claim to see her figure in the flashes of lightning, wandering the woods or standing by her unmarked grave, still bound by the town's collective dread. Her legend has become a chilling reminder of the power of fear and the lasting stain of injustice, her story echoing through the centuries as a spectral tale of a woman wronged, her vengeance immortalised in the whispered fears of those who remember. There's a dark and twisted tale that circulates online, one that is both bizarre and deeply unsettling. It's the story of the Hippo Eats Dwarf, an urban legend that tells of a circus performer, an acrobat or clown, depending on who tells it, who met a horrific end at the jaws of a hippopotamus. The legend goes that during a circus performance, the dwarf performer was meant to interact with the animals in a carefully choreographed act, entertaining the crowd with his bravery and skill. However, something went horribly wrong. As the dwarf entered the enclosure to face the massive hippopotamus, the animal, typically calm and trained, suddenly became agitated. In a horrifying moment of confusion and fear, the hippopotamus lunged forward, its massive jaws snapping shut around the small man. The crowd screamed, but it was too late. Witnesses claimed that the hippopotamus swallowed the performer whole, a grisly spectacle that left the audience in shock and terror. The circus tried to cover up the incident, but the gruesome nature of the death spread like wildfire, becoming an urban legend that still sends chills down the spine of anyone who hears it. Some versions of the tale suggest that the circus attempted to retrieve the body, but all they found was the empty, bloated carcass of the hippopotamus, the man's remains never to be recovered. Others claim that the performer's spirit haunts the circus grounds, lingering in the shadows, seeking vengeance or simply trying to make sense of his bizarre and brutal fate. No matter the version, one thing is certain: the Hippo Eats Dwarf legend is one that continues to terrify, reminding us of the chaos and horror that can unfold when the line between performer and beast is tragically crossed. A sinister whisper of the cuckoo stirs unease during the darkest hours. Known as the malevolent counterpart to the benign boogeyman of other cultures, the cuckoo is a creature of nightmares, thriving on the fears of both the young and old. This ghostly monster is no mere invention to coax children into obedience, but a terrifying spectre believed to lurk in the shadows of the night, waiting to snatch away those who dare defy the veil of night stillness. The legend of the cuckoo has been passed down through generations, a chilling narrative that varies slightly from region to region, but maintains its core essence. The cuckoo is a shapeless, shadowy figure, often depicted as a small, hunched being with glowing red eyes that peers through the darkness. It hides in closets, under beds, or in the dense foliage near homes, emerging only when the moon is but a faint glow against the black sky. Parents whisper tales of the cuckoo to their children, warning them not to wander alone at night. The cuckoo, they say, preys on the disobedient and the curious, those children who refuse to sleep when the night deepens, or who venture outside to explore the seductive mysteries of the dark. It is said that once the cuckoo sets its sights on you, escape is nearly impossible. Its presence is always cloaked in the rustling of leaves or the soft creaks of a settling house, its breath a cold gust foretelling doom. Elders in the community speak of their own fearful encounters, of nights filled with inexplicable cold drafts and fleeting shadows seen from the corners of their eyes. They recount stories of friends long gone, spirited away by the cuckoo, leaving behind nothing but a chilling silence and an unspoken warning to heed the boundaries set by the light. Some tales take a more gruesome turn, describing how the cuckoo feeds on fear, drawing closer with each terrified heartbeat. The more you fear, the stronger it becomes. Its whisper, a sound like the dragging of chains in the depths of the unseen. Those who listen closely on windy nights might still hear the faint cries of its victims, a permanent echo of their eternal torment. To confront the cuckoo is to face an ancient and relentless evil, a reminder of the dark corners of the world where old spirits refuse to be forgotten. It is a creature born from the darkness of the human psyche, a manifestation of the terror of the unknown and the unseen. In the lore of Latin America, the cuckoo remains a potent symbol of the night's darkest reach, a spectre forever waiting in the shadowy fringes of fear. The vast, unforgiving ocean stretched out before them, a dark expanse under a moonless sky. Aboard a colossal naval vessel, a behemoth of steel and power, the crew stood vigilant, their eyes scanning the horizon. The rhythmic thrum of the engines, the gentle sway of the ship, the only sounds in the oppressive silence of the night. Then, a flicker of light, a pinpoint in the distance, growing steadily larger, closer. Alarm bells rang through the ship, jolting the crew into action. The light, now clearly visible, appeared to be another vessel, its course set on a direct collision with their own. Frantic signals were sent, desperate attempts to avert disaster, but the light continued its inexorable approach, growing larger, brighter, more menacing with each passing moment. Panic gripped the crew, the fear of imminent collision palpable in the tense silence. Orders were barked, the ship manoeuvring desperately to avoid the oncoming vessel. The light grew blindingly bright, filling the night with its eerie glow. Collision seemed inevitable, the crushing force of impact just moments away. And then a voice, strained and disbelieving, broke the silence. It's a lighthouse. The ship, swerved violently, narrowly avoiding the rocky shore. The lighthouse, a towering sentinel against the dark, stood firm, its light casting a long accusatory beam across the churning waters. The crew, shaken and bewildered, stared back at the lighthouse, their hearts pounding in their chests. Relief washed over them, quickly followed by a chilling realization. How could they have mistaken a stationary lighthouse for a moving vessel? Had their senses been deceived, or was there something more sinister at play? Whispers spread through the ship, tales of ghostly lights and phantom vessels, of a malevolent force that lured ships to their doom. And then, years later, another ship, sailing the same treacherous waters, reported a similar encounter. A blinding light, a near collision, and then the chilling realization that the light was not a ship, but something far more unsettling. Something that stood on the shore, beckoning them closer, its light a siren song of destruction. Relax and unwind as we delve into the eerie tale of the Buckley family, an urban legend shrouded in mystery. Let the chilling story guide you gently into a deep, peaceful sleep. The Buckley family urban legend revolves around a chilling photograph of two children who reportedly murdered their mother on Halloween night. The story begins with the discovery of an old, grainy black and white photo found in an abandoned house, showing a young boy and girl standing side by side. At first glance, the picture seems innocent, but upon closer inspection, there's something unnerving about the children's blank expressions. The story behind the photo is far more sinister. According to legend, the Buckley family lived in a quiet neighbourhood in the 1950s. On Halloween, the two Buckley children, who were around 10 and 12 years old, brutally murdered their mother in cold blood. They supposedly planned the murder for weeks, waiting for the perfect night when no one would suspect their horrific intentions. Some versions of the tale say the children wore Halloween costumes to hide their identities, making it harder for the neighbours to realise the terrible act they had committed. After killing their mother, the children left her body in the house and calmly walked outside as if nothing had happened. When the authorities arrived, the children were found sitting on the porch, eerily silent, still wearing their costumes, their hands stained with blood. The photograph that surfaced after the incident is said to have been taken moments before or after the murder, capturing the children in their eerie calmness. Some believe the image was discovered by the police as part of their investigation, while others say it was found years later in the abandoned Buckley house, where the children had been left to live after the tragedy. The whereabouts of the children after the murder remain unknown, adding to the mystery and fear surrounding the story. Over time, the Buckley family legend became a popular urban myth, with various retellings on online forums and in ghost story circles. The photograph itself has become a symbol of fear, said to be cursed. Anyone who gazes at it too long or too often experiences terrible nightmares, or even worse, finds themselves drawn into the same darkness that consumed the Buckley children. The Buckley family tale continues to be passed down as a reminder of the horrors that can lurk behind seemingly innocent faces, forever leaving a haunting impression on those who hear it. In the quiet, mist-covered village of Woolpit, Suffolk, there is a tale so strange, so unsettling, that it has echoed through the centuries, whispered in hushed tones by those who dare remember. The story is that of the Green Children, 2 children with skin the colour of freshly sprouted leaves, who appeared mysteriously in the village during the 12th century, their origins shrouded in darkness. The legend begins one fateful day when the villagers discovered 2 children, brother and sister, standing near one of the village's wolf pits, a deep, dark hole from which the village took its name. The children were unlike any the villagers had seen before. Their skin was a sickly green, their eyes wide with fear, and their clothes were strange, made of a fabric that none could recognize. They spoke in a language no one understood, their words a guttural foreign sound that only deepened the mystery. The villagers, both curious and fearful, took the children in, feeding them the only food they knew, bread and beans, but the children refused, their faces contorting with disgust at the food. It was only when the villagers offered them raw beans that the children ate, their hunger insatiable. Days turned to weeks, and slowly the children's skin began to lose its unnatural hue, fading from green to a more earthly tone. But the strange, eerie aura surrounding them never faded. The boy, frail and weak, soon fell ill and died. But the girl survived and began to speak, though her words were fractured, her memories fragmented. She revealed a story so unbelievable that it has haunted Woolpit ever since. The children, she said, came from a place called St. Martin's Land, a realm that existed beyond the earthly world, a land where everything was green and the sun never shone. She spoke of strange beings who lived there, beings that looked like people but were not quite human. She told of a world where the sky was always twilight, and where she and her brother had wandered before they mysteriously found themselves in the pit. No one knows for certain what happened to the Green Children. The girl, now assimilated into the village, grew up and eventually married, but the strange origin of the children was never fully explained. Some say they came from a parallel dimension, while others whisper of an underground kingdom, or perhaps they were lost souls, cast adrift from some other, darker world. To this day, the tale of the Green Children of Woolpit lingers like a shadow over the village. The villagers of Woolpit still speak in hushed tones of the strange visitors, of the green-skinned children who arrived one day, never to reveal the truth of where they came from, and perhaps, more chillingly, where they went. The elevator game is not for the faint of heart. This eerie ritual, which originated on a Japanese forum in 2008, promises to transport players to an alternate world if they follow its chilling steps precisely. But those who play it know the risks. A journey that may lead them somewhere they can never return from, with a sinister presence haunting their every step. The rules are deceptively simple. Enter an empty building with at least 10 floors and step into the elevator alone. Press a specific sequence of buttons, 4, 2, 6, 2, 10, and 5, and upon reaching the 5th floor, something unsettling is said to happen. The door may open, revealing a mysterious woman standing there, dressed in shadows and staring straight ahead, ignoring the player. Legends warn never to look at her, speak to her, or acknowledge her presence, for she is not human. Those who break this rule have reportedly vanished without a trace, drawn into her icy, haunting gaze. If the ritual continues correctly, pressing the 1st floor should cause the elevator to ascend to the 10th floor instead, defying the commands. When the doors open, players will find themselves in a world both familiar and unsettlingly different, a barren, dark version of their own reality, empty and silent. Outside, A red cross glows ominously in the distance, casting an eerie light over a desolate landscape. They say if you step out here, you may become trapped, lost in this strange dimension, never to return. To return to the real world, the player must repeat the same button sequence, resisting the urge to look at the woman if she reappears. But the game is dangerous. Many who claim to have survived report feeling watched, plagued by shadows and strange figures following them long after they leave the elevator. The elevator game is not just a harmless superstition, but a doorway into darkness, a ritual that blurs the line between worlds and calls forth a presence that seems to lurk in the shadows. And for those who dare to play, one warning remains. Once you enter, you may never find your way back. Let's journey into the haunting forests of Veracruz, where ancient whispers tell of mysterious creatures called the Shenekes. Close your eyes, relax, and let their eerie legend guide you to sleep. In the dense, untamed forests of Veracruz, whispers of an ancient terror linger, the Shenekes. Born from the depths of Aztec mythology, these eerie creatures are believed to dwell between the realms of the living and the underworld. Their sole purpose? To guard the sacred mountains and wild creatures that roam their untamed domains. But these guardians are far from benevolent. The Shenekes are small, no taller than a child, but their appearance is deceptive. They take on the guise of tiny men and women, their forms twisted and contorted, with eyes that glimmer like blackened coals. Their laughter, an eerie, high-pitched sound, echoes through the trees, growing louder the deeper you wander into the forest. Travellers who hear this sound know they've strayed too far into Shenek territory, and once the creatures have set their sights on you, escape is nearly impossible. The air grows thick, heavy with the scent of damp earth and rotting leaves, and suddenly you'll realise that the path you were following has vanished. The trees around you seem to close in, and the familiar sounds of the forest, bird song, the rustling of leaves, fall deathly silent. It is then that the Sheneks strike. With swift, silent movements, they dart between the trees, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Their soft whispers crawl inside your head, filling your mind with confusion and dread. Legends say that the Shenek possess a terrifying power. They can steal a person's tonali, the very essence of one's soul. Once taken, the victim is left wandering in a daze, trapped in a state of confusion and fear. Days turn to weeks, and the unfortunate traveller begins to wither, their mind unravelling until they are but a hollow shell of their former self. To those who manage to escape the forest, the ordeal never truly ends. They say that the Shenekes curse their victims with endless nightmares and strange illnesses, their whispers haunting them long after they've left the woods behind. The only way to break free is to return to the forest and appease the Sheneks with offerings of food or valuables. A dangerous proposition, for those who return rarely make it out alive. In the dark, shadowy depths of the forest, the Sheneks wait, ever watchful. For once you enter their domain, you belong to them, and they will not let you go. Along the mist-shrouded waters of Wyoming's Platte River, Locals whisper of a spectral vessel that has haunted the river for centuries. Known as the death ship of the Platte River, this ghostly apparition appears suddenly, cutting through the fog with an unnatural silence that chills even the bravest souls who witness it. Those who have seen it claim it's no ordinary ship, but a cursed harbinger of doom, a warning of death for those unfortunate enough to catch a glimpse of its decaying masts and spectral crew. The ship is said to be a battered, ancient vessel, its once proud sails now tattered and hanging limply, though no wind stirs them. The entire ship glows with an eerie, grey light, casting an unnatural pallor over the river as it moves silently, with no sign of rippling water to mark its path. Its wooden hull appears worn and rotting, covered in strange mosses and barnacles, yet it glides as if untouched by time. Witnesses recount that the ghostly ship seems to be staffed by a crew of shadowy figures, barely distinguishable from the mist that clings to the riverbanks. These phantom sailors stand deathly still, their hollow eyes staring blankly ahead, as though seeing a world beyond the living. The sight of them is enough to paralyze anyone who dares to watch, their forms flickering like candle flames in the fog, silent, yet filled with an overwhelming sense of dread. According to legend, those who see the death ship of the Platte River are destined to witness a death, often their own or that of someone close to them. Stories tell of pioneers and river travellers who encountered the ghostly vessel and soon after met tragic ends. One tale describes a fisherman who spotted the ship gliding down the river on a foggy morning. Mesmerised, he watched as one of the ghostly sailors extended a bony hand and pointed directly at him. Within days the man fell ill, his life draining away under mysterious circumstances. Another chilling account recalls a young couple who were boating on the river at dusk when the ship emerged from the fog. They watched in horror as the crew seemed to look straight through them, their empty eyes filled with a cold indifference to the living. Days later, the couple's bodies were discovered on the riverbank, their boat overturned, and no explanation for their sudden deaths. The death ship of the Platte River is no mere phantom tale. Locals swear by its appearances, warning travellers not to linger by the river when the fog thickens, especially near Alcova and Torrington. It's a grim reminder that some spirits do not rest, and that some waters are forever cursed. The ship drifts onward, a harbinger of death, carrying the souls of its doomed crew, forever bound to the Platte's dark, winding course. We journey into the misty woods of Bradley, where the sorrowful spirit of the Black Lady roams. Let her quiet footsteps guide you into a peaceful, restful sleep. The Black Lady of Bradley Woods is a haunting figure from English folklore, said to roam the dark and mysterious woods near the village of Bradley in Lincolnshire. This spectral presence has been a part of local legend for centuries, with many claiming to have caught glimpses of her wandering the woods, shrouded in sorrow and silence. Described as a tall, slender woman, dressed entirely in black, the Black Lady is most often seen wearing a long, flowing cloak with a hood that covers her face. Her appearances are always marked by an overwhelming sense of sadness and grief, as if she is forever searching for something or someone lost. Her skin is pale, and her eyes, when visible, are filled with an eternal sorrow that seems to pierce through those who encounter her. According to the most well-known version of the legend, the Black Lady was once a young woman during the medieval period who lived happily with her husband, a soldier, and their newborn child in a cottage near the woods, Devastated by the loss of her family, the young mother wandered the woods, searching endlessly for her child, until her grief consumed her, and she eventually perished. From that moment on, her restless spirit is said to have remained bound to the woods, eternally searching for her lost baby. Locals claim that the Black Lady appears most often on misty evenings, her figure emerging from the shadows of the trees. Some say she will ask passers-by if they have seen her child, while others report that she simply stares, lost in her grief, before vanishing back into the darkness. Over the years, the legend of the Black Lady has served as a cautionary tale for children, warning them to stay away from the woods after dark. While many are skeptical, there are still those who believe in her presence, and stories of sightings continue to circulate. Whether real or imagined, the Black Lady of Bradley Woods remains a symbol of deep sorrow and eternal longing. Her tragic story lingers in the minds of those who hear it, casting a shadow of mystery and sadness over the quiet village of Bradley. In the forgotten corners of Kansas, hidden deep in the eerie silence of Stoll Cemetery, lies a dark secret, one that should never be sought but forever lingers. The legend speaks of an ancient, crumbling church that once stood here, now reduced to rubble, its remnants buried beneath the weight of time and neglect. But beneath the wreckage, something far more sinister still endures. A set of stairs that lead into the earth, hidden from view, yet said to open into the very depths of hell. Every year, on Halloween night and the spring equinox, the veil between this world and the next grows thin, and the gates of hell are said to crack open. It is on these cursed nights that the stairs, once part of the old church, are said to reveal their true purpose, serving as a direct passage to the other side. Those who venture too close report an unnatural cold, a weight in the air that presses down on their chest, and an oppressive silence that seems to swallow all sound. The stories are chilling. Some claim to have seen shadows move at the edge of their vision, whispers from unseen voices calling them forward, urging them to descend. But none are foolish enough to go further. Many who have dared to approach speak of the heavy, suffocating presence that lingers near the steps, a force that watches from the dark. And though the church is long gone, the legend persists. For in the dead of night, when the moon is hidden and the air turns thick with dread, the stairs to hell are said to open, waiting for those who are brave or cursed enough to glimpse what lies beyond. But be warned, once you look into that darkness, it might never let you go. landscape of Wisconsin, there's a chilling mystery that lingers in whispers and half-forgotten memories. According to legend, there once was a town named Doveland, a small, close-knit community with friendly neighbours and quiet streets. Yet, by the early 1990s, Doveland had disappeared without a trace. Not merely abandoned or decayed, but entirely erased, as if it had never existed. Today, there are no maps, no records, not even a mention of it in official documents. Yet, people swear they remember it, and others carry fragments of its memory in objects and eerie recollections. Locals and former residents insist they once visited or even lived in Doveland. They recall the roads, the town square, the shops, and the lake that glistened under summer skies. Some claim they have souvenirs, t-shirts, postcards, or even keychains that bear the name Doveland, Wisconsin. These objects are rare, kept like relics, though the origins are lost and faded, as if each one were a relic from a place beyond reach. Those who find themselves in possession of these objects describe an uneasy feeling, as if they hold a piece of something that wasn't meant to be remembered. The most unnerving aspect of the legend is that no one seems to agree on what happened to Doveland. Some say it was the result of a government experiment gone wrong, a project that shattered the fabric of reality itself. Others whisper about a tragedy so horrific that the town was erased to protect outsiders from its dark secrets. And still, there are those who believe Doveland simply slipped through a crack in time, disappearing into another dimension, leaving only the faintest of imprints in our world. Strangers passing through the area where Doveland once stood often report feeling lost or uneasy, as if they're being watched by something unseen. There are other eerie reports as well. Travellers say that on certain nights they've seen faint lights through the trees and heard the distant sounds of music and laughter, as though a town was still there, celebrating in the darkness. Some even say they've glimpsed ghostly figures in the shadows, walking along non-existent streets, whispering words that dissolve in the wind. People who claim to have lived in Doveland share an unsettling commonality. They all experience recurring dreams of returning to the town, walking familiar streets, greeted by familiar faces, faces they now cannot remember. They wake with a sense of deep loss, as if a part of themselves was left behind in that town that no longer exists. Strangers who visit the region sometimes describe feeling a magnetic pull to a place that doesn't appear on any map, or an intense sense of déjà vu, like they've stepped into a place they once knew but cannot recall. Doveland, Wisconsin remains an enigma, a town lost to time or perhaps to something far darker. Its absence lingers like a wound, and those who remember it are left with the eerie feeling that a piece of reality has slipped away, taking with it a slice of their own lives. The mystery of Doveland hangs like a shadow over the region, a strange void that beckons to those who seek it, yet warns of dangers hidden within forgotten places. For those who dare to remember or seek to uncover its secrets, there's always the haunting question: what happens to those who dig too deep into a place that was never meant to be found? Tonight, we explore the mysterious legend of the Beast of Exmoor, a phantom cat said to roam the moors of Devon and Somerset. Relax, unwind, and let this calming tale guide you to sleep. The Beast of Exmoor, also known as the Exmoor Beast, is a legendary creature believed to be a large phantom cat that roams the moors and fields of Exmoor in Devon and Somerset, United Kingdom. The legend first gained widespread attention in the late 1970s, when farmers in the region began reporting mysterious livestock killings, particularly sheep that appeared to have been savaged by a large predator. Over the years, sightings of the beast continued, with eyewitnesses witnesses describing it as a big cat, often resembling a panther or puma, with sleek black fur and glowing eyes. The Beast of Exmoor became notorious in the 1980s when more reports of mutilated livestock surfaced, leading to speculation that a dangerous predator was on the loose. Farmers, alarmed by the continued losses, pushed for investigations, and even the British military was called in at one point to search for the elusive creature. Despite numerous attempts to track down the beast, no conclusive evidence was ever found to confirm its existence. Some believe that the beast might be an exotic pet that was released into the wild, possibly a big cat such as a puma or leopard that managed to survive and adapt to the moors. Others think the beast is purely mythical, a product of local folklore that has grown over time. The British government conducted an investigation in the mid-1980s, but like other inquiries, it failed to provide any definitive answers. To this day, the Beast of Exmoor remains a part of local legend, with occasional sightings still being reported. Whether real or imagined, the beast continues to captivate the imagination of those who live near or visit the wild, untamed moors of Exmoor, adding a layer of mystery to the beautiful landscape. Tonight, let's explore the eerie legend of the Bandage Man, a mysterious figure said to haunt the coastal roads of Oregon. Relax, unwind, and drift off as we delve into this haunting tale. The Bandage Man is a chilling urban legend from the Pacific Northwest, particularly well known along the Oregon coast. The story centers around a mysterious and terrifying figure, a man wrapped in bloody bandages who appears on desolate roads to attack cars and terrorize unsuspecting teenagers. The origins of this legend trace back to a gruesome sawmill accident, but over the years, the tale has taken on a life of its own, becoming a favourite local ghost story passed down through generations. According to the legend, the Bandage Man was once a logger who worked in the dangerous and grueling timber industry. One day, he was involved in a horrific accident at a local sawmill, where he was caught in a machine and severely mangled. Despite the efforts to save him, the man's injuries were too grave. He was wrapped in bandages from head to toe in a desperate attempt to treat his wounds, but he ultimately succumbed to his injuries. Some versions of the story claim that his body was disfigured beyond recognition, with parts of him missing, only held together by the blood-soaked bandages that covered him. Following his death, strange sightings began to occur on a stretch of road near Cannon Beach, Oregon. Drivers and teenagers parked in their cars at night reported seeing a man wrapped in bandages appearing out of the shadows, often described as limping or dragging himself toward the vehicle. In some accounts, the Bandage Man would climb onto the car, leaving bloody handprints on the windows, or even break the windows to try and grab the passengers. The legend also says that he smells of decaying flesh, and that his bandages are stained with blood, adding to the horror of his appearance. The Bandage Man is particularly known for targeting teenagers who are parked on secluded roads, often in a romantic or isolated setting. Many locals warn that if you're parked along the coast late at night, especially in areas like Highway 101, you might become the next victim of the bandage man's terrifying wrath. In some versions of the story, he's said to disappear without a trace as quickly as he appears, leaving only the unsettling memory of the encounter and, sometimes, remnants of his bloodied bandages. There are various theories about why the bandage man haunts this specific area and why he appears so frequently. Some say that his restless spirit is seeking revenge for his untimely and gruesome death, angry at the world and jealous of those still alive. Others believe that he is merely a remnant of a tragic accident, forever trapped between life and death, doomed to wander the roads near his old workplace. While no one has ever been seriously harmed by the bandage man, his legend has become a part of the local folklore, with many claiming to have had a close encounter with the eerie figure. Teenagers in the area continue to share stories of near misses with him, recounting their fear as they sped away from what they believed to be the ghostly figure chasing after them. Some locals suggest that the bandage man legend serves as a cautionary tale, warning young people not to linger too long on dark, deserted roads late at night. Though there is no concrete evidence to support the existence of the bandage man, his story persists, growing with each retelling. As with many urban legends, the bandage man thrives on the fear of the unknown and the unsettling idea that danger could be lurking just beyond the edge of the headlights. The remote and rugged landscape of the Oregon coast only adds to the atmosphere, making the story even more believable for those who live there. In the dark, misty roads of Japan, there's a terrifying tale that haunts the streets, one that sends a shiver down the spine of anyone who dares drive at night. It is the legend of the headless rider, a ghostly figure of a motorcyclist, forever cursed to ride the roads without a head. The story begins with a tragic accident that occurred years ago. A young man speeding down a desolate road on his motorcycle was unaware of the danger ahead. In the dead of night, someone, no one knows who, had stretched piano wire across the road, the thin, almost invisible strands ready to catch the unsuspecting. The rider, unable to see the wire in time, crashed into it at full speed. The wire snapped tight, decapitating him instantly, his head flying off as his body crumpled to the ground. His motorcycle slid to a stop, the engine sputtering its final breath in the silence of the night. But death was not the end for this rider. As the legend goes, the rider's ghost now haunts the road where he perished, a headless figure speeding through the night on his motorcycle. The faint sound of revving engines fills the air as he approaches, and those who have encountered him report seeing a rider in a dark helmet and leather jacket, his hands gripping the handlebars with unnatural force. But when they get close enough, the rider's neck is eerily empty, no head to be found. The headless rider is said to seek vengeance on those who dare drive too fast or too recklessly, as he once did. Many have reported seeing him in their rear-view mirrors, gaining speed until he's almost upon them, only for him to vanish just before impact. But some unlucky few have been followed, and on rare occasions they've felt the chilling brush of a headless figure passing by, a warning to never forget the deadly cost of speed. So, if you find yourself alone on a lonely, dark road in Japan and you hear the roar of a motorcycle behind you, be small, quiet town of Hopkinsville, Kentucky, there exists a legend so bizarre and terrifying that it has persisted through decades. It is the tale of the Hopkinsville Goblins, a strange, otherworldly encounter that defies all logic and explanation. On the night of August 21st, 1955, a family in the rural outskirts of Hopkinsville reported something so chilling it would become a cornerstone of UFO lore. The family, along with a few friends, had gathered at their home when strange glowing lights were seen in the sky. At first they thought it was a passing plane, but soon they realised that the lights were descending toward their property, hovering eerily above the ground. As the night grew darker, the true horror began. Small, goblin-like creatures, around 3 to 4 feet tall, emerged from the woods. Their skin was an unnatural shade of green, smooth and hairless, and their eyes glowed a vivid, unsettling yellow. They were said to have elongated arms and 3 webbed toes on each foot. The creatures moved in a jerky, almost mechanical manner, creeping around the house, peering through windows with unnatural intensity. Terrified, the family took refuge in the house, but the creatures did not relent. The goblins began to tap on the windows, scratching at the walls, and in some accounts, they would even jump and cling to the sides of the house like creatures from a nightmare. The family fired shots into the air in a desperate attempt to scare them off, but the creatures remained undeterred, their glowing eyes following every movement. The terror continued for hours until the creatures finally vanished into the night, leaving behind nothing but a deep sense of dread and unanswered questions. To this day, no one knows what the Hopkinsville Goblins truly were. Were they extraterrestrials, creatures from another world? Or were they the product of some collective hysteria? Regardless of the explanation, the legend of those green, glowing-eyed beings still haunts the town of Hopkinsville, where the night sky is always a little too dark and the trees too still. Tonight, we dive into the strange and surreal tale of aerial water bomber picking up a scuba diver. Relax as we explore this curious urban legend where the impossible becomes almost believable. The urban legend of the aerial water bomber picking up a scuba diver is a bizarre yet captivating tale that has made its way into popular culture and persists as one of the more outlandish myths in modern folklore. The story claims that an aerial water bomber, often described as either a large airplane or a helicopter equipped with a water scooping mechanism, accidentally scoops up an unsuspecting scuba diver from a body of water, only to later dump them, along with the water, over a wildfire site. According to the legend, the scuba diver is swimming or diving in a lake or reservoir when the water bomber, in an attempt to fill its tanks or bucket to help extinguish a wildfire, unknowingly captures the diver along with the water. The diver is then carried in the tank or bucket high into the air, transported to a burning forest, and dropped with the water onto the blaze. The legend typically ends with firefighters or rescue workers later discovering the charred remains of the unfortunate diver, still wearing their scuba gear, on the ground at the fire site. Some versions of the story include details of the diver's baffled expression or comments from authorities trying to piece together how the individual ended up there. This urban legend is particularly compelling because it combines the randomness of fate. It's easy to see why such a strange and tragic tale would spread, especially among communities familiar with both wildfires and water-based recreation. The concept of a scuba diver being unwittingly scooped up by a firefighting aircraft seems absurd, yet just plausible enough to intrigue listeners. The myth gained significant traction, in part due to its use as a plot device in movies such as Magnolia and Barney's version, where the bizarre event is depicted or referenced. These portrayals help cement the story in popular culture, allowing it to circulate more widely and persist as an intriguing piece of modern folklore. Despite its enduring appeal, the aerial water bomber picking up a scuba diver myth has been thoroughly debunked. Snopes.com, a well-known urban legend debunking site,